Dear old work platform, it's not you, it's us. Actually, it is you. Endless onboarding? Constant IT bottlenecks? We've had enough. We need a platform that just gets us. And to be honest, we've met someone new. They're called Monday.com, and it was love at first onboarding. Their beautiful dashboards, their customizable workflows got us floating on a digital cloud 9. So no hard feelings, but we're moving on. Monday.com, the first work platform you'll love to use.
On average, you'll have to wait 31 days to see an OBGYN. And if you're dealing with an infection or outbreak, you know you need care fast. That's where WISP comes in. Connect with a U.S. licensed provider online and pick up safe, effective treatment at your local pharmacy that same day. Plus, get birth control and more delivered in all 50 states. Take control with comprehensive sexual and reproductive care, all from your phone. WISP. That's hellowisp.com. The waiting room can wait.
Welcome back to another episode of Investies. I'm your host, Linda Garcia. This week on the podcast, I'm not going to talk to you about the stock market. I am not going to talk to you about the economy. I'm going to talk to you about my experience through Texas politics and what took place last week. Initially, when I first made the decision to run for office and become a public servant, clear pathway, knowing that I would be elected, I really wanted to make sure that I kept Investies away from what I was experiencing. My team asked, "Are you sure you want to do both of these things at the same time? Really think this through." And yes, my answer was always yes, and it is still yes. This is my safe space. This is my happy space. This is my North Star. It was important for me to share some details of the process, but what I didn't want to do was turn this podcast into obviously a political podcast. One, because I like to share the things that I know. And when I say no, I mean no. Not just spend a couple months doing something and then deem myself an expert. That is not who I am. And my core audience knows that about me. So for me to even get on a microphone and start to talk about this space, by this space, I mean politics, as if I know anything at all, is ridiculous to me. However, I am going through an experience, and today I have decided that it is important for me to share with you what it is that I am going through, because it is not only impacting me, it is going to impact all of Texas families. And something that I have been saying for a really long time, since the moment I decided to do this, which was back in December of 2024, is that Texas is the leader of the states when it comes to the Republican Party. When Texas makes a decision, we can almost always anticipate for the country to follow. And so it is important for everyone across the United States to pay attention to what is happening in Texas politics. This is a big reason why I decided to run, why I decided to put myself in this position, because I understood that just having a clear runway, I was going to have the opportunity to represent people that look and sound and think like me. And there is a need for this level of representation in Texas politics. And I felt that I could be an asset given my passion, given my North Star, given my knowledge. I'm not going to be bringing these types of episodes to you often, but when I do, it's going to be because I feel it is important for you to pay attention. And I also want to be responsible with the platforms that I have.
Dear old work platform, it's not you, it's us. Actually, it is you. Endless onboarding? Constant IT bottlenecks? We've had enough. We need a platform that just gets us. And to be honest, we've met someone new. They're called Monday.com, and it was love at first onboarding. Their beautiful dashboards, their customizable workflows got us floating on a digital cloud 9. So no hard feelings, but we're moving on. Monday.com, the first work platform you'll love to use.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
I'm going to call today's episode Talk Me Off the Ledge. For those that are new to the political space, we say ledge in short for the legislator or legislative session. Last week in the ledge, we had one of the biggest fights that we were going to have in all of this session. We had been preparing for this fight. It's actually a fight that we have had many sessions, and unfortunately, last week, we lost. I want to make it really clear that when I say we lost, I do not mean Democrats lost. I mean Texas families lost. The Texas Democratic Party has been fighting a bipartisan issue that unfortunately high-powered Republicans have politicized and have worked really hard to make this a fight between Republicans and Democrats. However, those that are going to be affected are Texas families, the middle class, and lower income families, making this a bipartisan issue. The state of Texas will now be handing out vouchers, which is like a $10,000 coupon that can be applied to a private school. The $10,000 per student will be coming out of taxes that Texan families contribute to. It's important for us to understand that there isn't necessarily an amount of money that will cap you from applying for these vouchers. It is actually tied to a percentage of income based on the federal poverty level. And while we may hear federal poverty level and think that somehow this is tied to lower income families, it's not, and for several reasons. So as an example, a family of 4 has to bring in less than $160,000. A family of 5 would have to bring in less than $194,000. A family of 6, $215,000. A family of 7, $304,000. Each kid is eligible for the $10,000. And so what happens is that the $10,000 per kid is then taxes that's diverted away from public schools and into private schools. Now let's talk about the eligibility of private schools, what students are eligible, and how private schools are able to deny or turn away any child for any reason. We also have a lot of rural towns in Texas that have zero accessibility to private schools. meaning that those children will not be eligible to participate in this program because there is no private school that they can attend. And what most people don't understand is that those public schools in those very small towns, they're receiving tax dollars from cities like Dallas, cities like San Antonio, cities like Austin, where there's a surplus of tax dollars. And then what Texas does is divert the excess of tax dollars into those schools that bring in less tax dollars from their communities. So we try to even out the playing field for these other small towns to also have the resources close to the resources that big cities are receiving. We also have transportation issues where private schools don't necessarily have transportation. Most of the children in private schools are getting picked up and dropped off by their parents or their nannies. Let's talk about lower income families that maybe would like to participate in this program but don't have anyone to pick their children up or take their children to school. Not to mention that when you apply for private school, you have to take certain tests to be able to get enrolled into private schools or be a part of a specific religion in order to attend these private schools. And currently, as it stands, we have public schools that have not received any money from the state of Texas for several years now because the state of Texas was holding their money hostage in the last session. So a lot of the public schools have resorted to spending their savings accounts. Schools are falling behind. They're losing teachers. They're shutting down. They're going down to 4 days a week. And the children are the ones that are being most affected by this. Their learning has gone down. Their reading skills have gone down. Are these children going to be able to get accepted into a private school based on their education level that is hurting because we haven't paid into our public schools? It's important for us to understand that the people that are going to benefit from this program the most are the ones that are already enrolled in private schools. Those that are already eligible, those that are already attending. Aside from everything I have already mentioned, what we have also begun to see in states that have implemented the vouchers is that new schools start to pop up. And in the private school system, there is no regulation on teachers needing to be certified or children needing to hit certain milestones the way we are regulating schools in the public school system. So what is happening is that we have teachers that are not certified, schools that are not being held accountable, and all of these children are being rerouted into these schools, falling behind. Parents are picking up on this, pulling their children out of these private schools, putting them back into the public school system, where then we have public school teachers having to work hard to catch those students up, while the other children that are already on grade level are being penalized because we're diverting resources to the kids that need to be caught up. All of this isn't even the half, okay? There's so many layers to what is currently taking place. In everything, it's really important for us to follow the trail. Like, where do all of these ideas or bills come from? And this one specifically is from Jeff Yass, who is a billionaire that has invested into TikTok. He poured $12 million into Governor Abbott's campaign. Prior to that, the largest contribution to Governor Abbott's campaign was $3 million from Tim Dunn, an oil guy. In the last legislative session, Republicans that voted against these coupons were primaried out. Governor Abbott poured millions into getting new Republican state representatives that would vote his agenda. We lost very strong allies in the Republican Party. What was really disheartening to see during these primaries is that the campaigns that were used against our former allies and colleagues were campaigns that had nothing to do with their decisions on vouchers and everything to do with topics that were highly politicized, like immigration. However, in this session, there was a glimmer of hope. We had a strategy. More importantly, we had MAGA moms that were upset over the idea of vouchers happening. They understood the issue and they wanted to demand that we bring this decision to the voters, because we all know, we see it, we hear it every single day, that our parents, our families are against this idea. They understand the damage that this is going to do to the children that are attending public schools, to their children. We had a colleague, a Republican colleague, that was going to carry an amendment that would bring this decision home to our Texas families, where we would allow them to decide whether this is something that they wanted, and we wouldn't leave this in the hands of people that were bought and placed in this position. There are no secrets in our chamber. Governor Abbott began to call in our Republican colleagues one by one. He threatened to start vetoing their bills. He promised them that they would see a bloodbath in their primaries. And then he had the President of the United States pressure them into voting yes on SB 2. It is not normal for the President of the United States to be involved in state politics in this way. This is not normal. His participation was a clear testimony on how effective we were with our messaging, on how strong our fight was, and how we were able to turn this into a bipartisan issue and help our Texas families see through the rhetoric that had been taking place in the campaigns, on primaries, and with Governor Abbott's messaging. I just want to give a quick shout out to the two Republican representatives that stayed strong with us and didn't fold, no matter the threats, no matter who called, and that was former Speaker Dade Phelan and Chairman Gary Van Dever. Representative James Tellerico carried the amendment that we originally wanted a Republican to carry, the amendment from the MAGA moms. And shortly after we saw the motion to table and the vote for the motion to table on this amendment, it was pretty clear to us that we were losing. It was rough. I will never forget what I experienced on that floor. The stress, the tension, the anger, the rage, the sadness, when you're losing a battle and watching colleagues gloat and smirk, and especially when you know that real families are going to be affected by this, especially when you know that this is something that we've been fighting against for years, and that when it was first presented to the Texas House, it was to help create segregation so that white children wouldn't have to be going to school with Black and brown children, especially when you know at the core what this is going to represent and how this is going to affect not just Black and brown children, just low-income children. This was so hard, especially as an empath. It's why I couldn't do the research or pay attention to the stock market, because none of that fucking matters right now. None of that matters. What matters is the dismantling of the systems that were giving low-income communities hope of becoming something, and hopefully one day understand the economy and participate in the stock market, which is another agenda that we are meant to be kept out of. Right before we vote on a bill, we have the opportunity to speak for that bill or speak against the bill. I'm going to leave you with my speech on speaking against it. I was tired. It was after 2 a.m, and it was just the last plead we can make in hopes of changing hearts on the floor. Right before I made this speech, a Republican colleague had mentioned how terrible our reading levels in public schools were. She had the audacity to talk and criticize about a school system that her party has been destroying for years now.
Mr. Speaker, members, if our children can't read at grade level, then it's us that have been failing them, the government. Over 5.5 million students attend public schools here in Texas. They are the heartbeat of Texas. While I've heard plenty of arguments praising vouchers, let's be clear. This bill does not serve those students. This voucher scam is a handout for the wealthy, not a lifeline for the children in our classrooms. It's not about expanding opportunity. It's about subsidizing privilege. I am a proud product of public schools, and I carry that with me every day in this chamber. I didn't grow up with a traditional family structure. My support system came from my educators, teachers, principals, counselors, those who saw my potential when I couldn't see it for myself. Public schools gave me a future, not because I was exceptional, but because the system was designed to serve every child. I am standing here today because of a public education, a system that believed every student, regardless of their zip code, that they deserve a shot. This bill chips away at the fundamental promise. SB 2 is a blank check with zero accountability. It redirects our constituents' hard-earned tax dollars to private schools that aren't required to meet the same standards, serve students with disabilities, or be transparent with how they spend their public funds. We hear a lot about parent choice, but what about the choice of parents who want their neighborhood school to have a full-time nurse, a school librarian, or enough certified teachers who aren't exhausted and underpaid? That's the choice parents are begging for us to protect. Make no mistake, parents across Texas have spoken. They do not support vouchers. They want us to invest in their neighborhood schools, not dismantle them. They want teachers respected and paid what they're worth. They want resources for mental health, enrichment, and real opportunities for their kids' futures. SB 2 delivers none of that. So I ask you, why are we turning our backs on millions of Texan students? Why are we abandoning the thousands of teachers who pour their hearts into their classrooms while buying supplies out of their own pockets? This isn't fiscal responsibility, it's financial injustice. Instead of giving billions away to the wealthy few, let's invest these dollars in public schools where they're needed the most. Public education is the greatest equalizer we have. It lifts communities, creates opportunities, and enshrines in our state constitution. We are duty-bound to protect it. A vote for this bill is not a vote for families. It is a vote for privatization at the expense of our public school system, and our constituents will remember. History will judge us by this moment. If SB 2 passes, we'll look back and recognize it as the day we failed Texas students when we chose politics over people.
You're listening to Investies. I'm your host, Linda Garcia. Investies is a Cosmic Standard and In Luz We Trust production. A special thank you to the team, Asia Simpson, Eliza Smith, and Jacob Winnick.